So I didn't plan to record tonight. This wasn't necessarily on my things to do list, but I wanted to talk about Ananda Lewis, learning of the fact that she was a breast cancer survivor. I didn't know that, and then having to discover the fact that she was a breast cancer survivor and passed away today. Learning that all in the same moment was a lot. So, Ananda Lewis, beautiful TV personality, talk show host. People of my generation basically grew up with her on MTV. We grew up watching her and all the amazing things she did. And she passed away today at the age of 52. And being a breast cancer survivor myself, I can tell you that it's a lot to process. Um, she's not the first person, not the first celebrity that has passed away recently after enduring a breast cancer battle, yet her story is interesting and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So, today's video isn't just about honoring her and her legacy, but also shedding light on her story because anytime we lose a sister to breast cancer, there is so much we can learn in their story. And honestly, a lot of times it's their story, their legacy that goes on to save someone else's life. Here's what we know, or here's what I learned. So, Ananda was diagnosed in 2019, from what I've learned. Um, or at least she discovered something in 2019. And then it looks like she was officially diagnosed in 2020. And at that time, she was stage 3. I couldn't find anything that spoke specifically on the subtype of breast cancer she had. Yet, like I said, she was diagnosed stage 3, which means that it had already spread to her lymph nodes. And so from there, it appears as if she wanted to basically, make her decision and treat it the way she wanted to. And so she had decided that she did not want to have a mastectomy and she wanted to explore alternative treatments. And so, from my understanding, from what I've read, that was a combination of um, increased high vitamin intake and detox in her body. At some point, there was limited or fractionated chemotherapy, which basically means you're getting like 10 to 20% of the dose of the chemotherapy drug instead of like a full treatment dose. Um, and from what I understand is she was also not like regularly getting mammograms once she turned 40. In fact, it appears as if that she didn't have her first mammogram until she was 47. And she expressed reasons behind that and even some regret behind it. But like many of us, there was a family history of breast cancer for her, and she witnessed her mom getting mammograms done for years and ultimately still being diagnosed. So that led to fear surrounding the radiation exposure and just that whole process of necessary like getting mammograms and it not necessarily like preventing it, which those of us that know enough about it, we know that the mammogram isn't going to prevent you from getting the breast cancer. The mammogram is designed to detect it as early as possible. So I'm sure that's where some of the regret came as she was able to educate herself a lot more about early detection. And, she even went on to be a huge advocate for it. And so, there's so much fear around Western medication, Western medicine, and there's so much information out there, and people do have fear around a lot of the testing that we do, and you know because it's so much fear tied up with it, it ultimately led to her delaying some of the tests and the screenings that possibly could have discovered it earlier. Like I said, it appears as if she decided not to do the mastectomy once she was diagnosed, and wanted to hold on to the tumor to reduce it and to allow her body to naturally fight it and get rid of it, because our bodies are amazing. That's something that she has said as well, like just how amazing our body can be, especially when it's given the right nutrients and when it's functioning at its best ability. And so for her, that was a huge part of her journey, exploring those holistic approaches, alternative medication, red light therapy, acupuncture, um, types of cryotherapy. There's so many different holistic approaches that are out there, and we have to respect the decision that she made ultimately, because she was at peace with her decision, even on the back end of things, and knowing more about her diagnosis and what she was dealing with, she still was at peace about it, and so we're going to respect that. And so for years, she tried to fight it. There is some information that says that, she was able to downgrade from stage 3 to stage 2, by doing what she was doing. And so again, we're going to respect the decision she made. Every woman should have the right to make their decision with their treatment plan. When you go in and see a doctor to talk about what's going on with your body, ultimately, like, you're going to select team members, that's going to go along on a journey, but you are like the captain of the team. You know what I'm saying? And so, ultimately, women are able to make their own decisions and advocate for themselves. And so, we are going to commend her for the bravery that it took to be able to stand up, because, like, if you've never gone through it, then you have no idea like how hard that must have been for her to be able to advocate for herself, to do alternative treatment with your oncologist, the person that is designed to fight and kill cancer the traditional Western medicine way. And so, we commend her for the amount of bravery that it took to do that. And like I said, and ultimately, everyone should be able to decide what's best for them and their body and their mental health and all of that, because all of that plays into it. And I listened to something, and that's kind of what I understood from, even from her deciding not to do the mastectomy. It sounded like she just was not in a place to, be able to accept the body image changes and just the emotional toll that was going to come with that, plus being a mother and, having everything else on top of cancer. Because I know I've said this before, like, life doesn't stop, things don't stop just because you have a breast cancer diagnosis. You have that on top of everything else, and life still it will keep life in, even in that. So again, I can't even imagine where she was in terms of being able to make a decision like that. But at the end of the day, I feel like she's extremely brave and strong to be able to do that. The unfortunate part about the decision that she made, like I said, we're going to respect it. But ultimately, I do feel like delaying, or, combining treatments and taking less of the traditional Western medicine, um, I do feel like it may have allowed her to progress to the stage 4 diagnosis sooner than she possibly had to, if she had taken the chemotherapy at the dose recommended, or if she had done the mastectomy and done the lymph node dissection and all of that that comes with it. It's so much. Yet I can't say that for sure. And I'm sure, that may have been something that she battled with in her mind back and forth. Like, gosh, what if I had done that? How different would things have been? And it's hard to say. It's um, it's hard to say because there are women who actually do everything that's recommended of them. Like they literally follow every step that the doctor recommends and they still end up progressing. And so we don't know that if she had done things different, that it would have been a different outcome for her. And unfortunately, that's just, when you make those decisions, whatever decision you make it with the 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 ability to understand that at the end of the day, I'm sticking with my decision and I'm believing, in my decision. And ultimately, whatever comes from that, I'm going to be at peace with that decision because I know that I made that decision. You understand what I'm saying? Yes, it spread. She was diagnosed with stage 4, which means that ultimately the cancer spread to other areas of her body. It's been reported that you know the spine, hips, wherever. She dealt with fractures and everything that goes with um, bone metastases and things like that. I don't know all the details. I'm just going by information that I've researched. But at the end of the day, you know she understood, what would have come next because stage 4, there's no cure for stage 4. They're able to sustain life longer than they have in the past. Stage 4 isn't a death sentence anymore for a lot of people. Like meaning, and when we say that, meaning it's not an immediate death sentence. But again, at some point, ultimately, the cancer cells are going to take over your body and treatment is going to no longer be effective as it stands. We know all about the advancements in medicine and how far medicine has come, especially, since the 90s, the 80s, the early 2000s. And so we know that there are other routes, there are other drugs and things like that that you can try. But ultimately, once you've tried everything and, it stops responding to everything, then you get to that point in your treatment in which doctors are like, there's nothing else they can do. And so that's, basically what stage 4 is. Now, when that timeline comes for anybody, nobody knows, but that's ultimately what that means. And so I've read and I've heard some statements from videos that I've watched. It sounds like ultimately there was some regret in the decision to not do the mastectomy and not follow the chemotherapy regimen. But again, it seems as if she was at peace about it. I think the level of courage and the level of honesty that it took for her to publicly come out and say that is phenomenal because it's so easy to talk about when things are going good. Like I'm one that, talk about all the highs a lot or whatever, but I also share, even with me having a recent scare with my MRI and the need to go back in for a biopsy and all of that. And so when you're able to not only share the highs but the lows as well, I think that that is a different level of courage and honesty. And honestly, that's what people need to see. People need to see the truth. Like that's why I do what I'm doing. Like I feel like that's what people relate to and they need to know like the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And so yeah, like, she expressed her, regret with the decision and wondered if things would turn out different. But at the same time, that took bravery, that took courage to be able to say, hey, I possibly made a mistake and things could have possibly turned out different if I made a different decision. And so that's what helps with saving additional lives. That is the platform that she was able to build as being an advocate to say, hey, this is how I did it, but do I recommend you do it that way? No, I mean, but ultimately you can do it however you want to do it, but this is how I did it. And, I kind of wish I could have done it differently. And so that helps to advocate, that helps to, show women that maybe there is a possibility that they explore more options, especially when it comes to treatment. So, sharing your pain, sharing your regret, all of that helps to save lives ultimately. I believe Ananda, wanted people to know like you should get checked earlier. You should consider more options. You should be open to your doctor's recommendations because it could possibly save your life. So, I wanted to come in, like I said, this wasn't planned or anything. I know my hair looked crazy and everything. I just wanted to come in because, any woman that is watching this, or if you watching this and you have someone that you love, your mom, your sister, it's important to know that early detection could possibly save your life. Again, I don't know what the subtype that she had, but I do know she was diagnosed after my, you know, sister. Like, I've talked about her several times before. She's not my blood sister. However, this is someone that's very close to me that was stage 3 when they found out, and they did do the recommendations, and they were diagnosed before Ananda, and you know what I'm saying, and they're still here. And so again, I don't know for a fact if her outcome would have been different, but I do know that early detection, and the sooner you're able to get in there and, find out what's going on in your body and get rid of the cancer cells as soon as possible, it gives your body a fighting chance. I do wholeheartedly believe that with everything in me. I do believe that it gives you a fighting chance. I know that early detection isn't perfect. I know that there are false positives, and sometimes it leads to unnecessary testing. But don't let fear steal your life. Don't let that keep you from, you know, taking the necessary steps to be proactive in your life and be proactive in your health. As a survivor, I can tell you, like, without a doubt, like, I get it. I know how hard it is. To take the steps to find out what's going on. I've been there. I've walked it. I know how hard it is to get that call. I know how hard it is to sit in the room and have the doctor break everything down. I get it. I get it. I get it. But don't let fear steal your life. So, let's honor Ananda by telling her story, and like I said, ultimately saving someone else's life. Like I said, I've been there. I get it. I know how scary that is. But I also know that it could save your life because I'm here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here. Recent scare aside, I'm still here. And so this is what matters, you know? So, if you're wondering what you can do, if you have not had your testing yet because you're afraid, if you've just been putting it off because you're too busy, I advise you to stop doing that. Make your appointment. Go get your mammogram done. Okay. Don't let it be years in between and you haven't had it done. Go get your mammogram done. If you feel something, don't ignore it. Go check it out. If you're doing self breast exams, kudos to you because you need to know your breasts. But when you know something and you feel something, you got to say something. So go get it checked out. If you're a survivor and you're seeing this, then you already know, like, the battle and everything that she's gone through. And so, advocate for other women, encourage other women to go and get their testing done. Like, it takes a village. Like, we all have to stick together and encourage each other through this. If you're recently diagnosed, gather all the information. A few weeks ago, there was another young influencer, younger, much younger than Ananda, like she was in her 30s, who decided to wait, who decided to forego Western medication, who wanted to only focus on his holistic approach. And again, I respect everyone's decision, but know all the facts first. If you make that decision after you know for a fact that you, let's say it like this. Let's say you sit down and you learn that, oh, you might not have to lose all your hair because you can do cold camping if you can afford it and your insurance pays for it. you can do cold capping and it keeps your hair preserved. Would that make you make a decision? Or let's say you find out that not every person that's going through chemotherapy is hovering over a toilet, throwing up all day, and they actually are able to go to work. They're actually able to go on vacation, spend time with their family. Would that make you make a different decision? Let's say you find out that you actually don't have to do chemotherapy because you went early enough and you just need a lumpectomy and some radiation. Would that make you do things differently? So that's what I mean when I'm saying, like, get all the information. Don't get to the point where you get your diagnosis and you're like, oh no, I saw my aunt go through this and it had her sick and she was down and out and I'm not doing that, so I'm gonna do this different. Don't make your decision based off of someone else's experience. Get the information for yourself first. And if you make your decision after you've gathered all the information and you are well educated with everything as it pertains to your diagnosis, I totally respect that. But do that first. Gather all the information first. At the end of the day, Ananda Lewis was a survivor. She was a warrior and she was an amazing advocate. And so we will honor her. We'll take everything that we've learned from her and her experience, and we're going to allow that to continue to push us forward. We're going to allow that to continue to uplift, to encourage, to educate. And so we've seen her, we've heard her, and we're going to listen and we're going to save lives. Okay. So let's not forget her. Um, like this video, share it with someone you care about, your mom, your sister, your daughter, especially if they are fearful. Share this with them. Um, Subscribe to the YouTube channel for more survivor related information, health information, encouragement, tips, my story, all of it. And drop a heart in the comments if her story has touched you in any way. If her story has made you now realize that you should probably call in the morning to get your mammogram done, drop a heart in the comment. Let me know that you are on it and you're not going to let fear control your life, because we're not to have fear anyway. The word talks about that. And so we're not going to allow fear to consume us. And we're going to encourage each other. We're going to uplift each other because we're stronger together. Let's learn, let's screen, let's support, let's live, and let's live more now.